find the agenda. Debbie? Okay. All right, we'll call the meeting to order, the Avilla Plan Commission, July 16th, 2025. Attendance of the Plan Commission members to determine the quorum. We got Shelby, Kevin, myself, Josh, Andy, and Adam. So we have 2, 4, 6. We do have a quorum. Minutes from the June 25th, 2025 meeting. Should all have received a copy of them after or before Kevin's suggestions corrected, but I believe these are the corrected ones, right, Adam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it appears like all the changes I noted have been taken care of.
Yep. Is there a motion to approve or any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve if there's no discussion.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, going too fast for you, Lefty?
I'm good.
Okay, the first order of business is a public hearing of the new Unified Development Ordinance adoption. Maybe you can go through what's been happening, Debbie?
Sure. Well, just as an overview, the steering committee has met a little over a year monthly to develop the new Unified Development Ordinance. We essentially took the existing zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance, merged them into one document, and then polished things up to bring you up to date with state statute, best practices, and administration and enforcement that's most practical for the town of Avilla. So just kind of in summary, there's 10 chapters. I've written probably about 35 different ordinances throughout the state, and I use these same 10 chapters just because if changes happen at the state level, the General Assembly sends us some changes. I know exactly what chapter it needs to be inserted in, and I can tip all of my clients off about that. So chapter 1 is the introductory provisions, and it goes over the establishment of the Unified Development Ordinance. It talks about administration by the administrator, which is your town manager, the Plan Commission, and the role of the BZA. It also talks about what happens if there's any projects that are currently underway while we're adopting this ordinance, and as well as what happens when property is annexed, or if it ever happens, disannexed from the community. Chapter 2 is zoning districts, and we itemize each of the zoning districts in the town, has a purpose statement for each zoning district, and then lists the types of permitted uses, the setbacks, minimum lot size, height requirements, and things like that. Chapter 3 is site development standards, and that's where we get into parking requirements, any landscaping requirements, how structures are oriented on the lots, just anything that would have to do with development of a particular site. Chapter 4 gets into use development standards. There's some uses in town that need a little extra attention, and some additional development standards that would go above and beyond just those established for the zoning district. So we have things like accessory dwelling units, which is an accessory home on the same property as a primary home. Agritourism is another. Home-based businesses, both with and without employees. Junkyards, manufactured home parks, just anything that the committee felt was kind of a hot button and needed some additional development standards to go with it before it could go into place. And then chapter 5 is all the administration and procedures for anything that comes before the Plan Commission with regard to administering the zoning ordinance. So we talk about zone map changes, development plans, making those applications. We also talk about the role of the BZA with variances and special exceptions. And we inserted some handy dandy flow charts to go through step by step how that process commission and the BZA, but also staff and any applicants that come through. Chapters 6, 7, and 8, we get into all those subdivision standards. So chapter 6 identifies the different subdivision types that we're allowing and where they're permitted. Chapter 7 gets into the designs regulations for development of a subdivision. So if you're gonna have a traditional residential neighborhood, we're gonna talk about streets, how many lots there can be. We talk about covenants, we talk about any drainage requirements that would go along with that. And then chapter 8 is our subdivision administration and procedures. So we talk about the step-by-step requirements for somebody to apply for subdivision approval before the plan commission. We also talk about the documents that need to be submitted and what's on each of those pages, as well as when they can start moving dirt and start building. Chapter 9 is the non-conforming section. We talk about all the things that you go through if a certain project doesn't meet your current ordinance, what happens if it didn't meet the previous ordinances, and kind of the difference between legal conforming and legal non-conforming and illegal non-conforming, and how we deal with each of those moving forward in the event they want to expand. And then lastly is Kevin's chapter called definitions. And we have identified all of the terms that would be applicable to administering this ordinance. Speaking of Kevin, I did want to mention that he had pointed out a couple of changes that we want to add to the section on signs. He had pointed out that we need to add a paragraph from your current ordinance that talks about how we measure the setbacks for signs. And we want to make sure that the setbacks are measured from the nearest edge of the sign and not from like the pole or any type of concrete monument. So I've made notes to that paragraph. Also noted that the setbacks might be measured from the property line or the right-of-way, whichever is more restrictive for the property. He also identified some various typos in the definition section, which really aren't relevant to adoption or consideration of the ordinance, but I have made a note of those and we'll change that for the final draft. So before you this evening, it's the public hearing for the public to provide any comments regarding this UDO. I'm happy to field any questions. And then the Plan Commission has the pleasure of voting to make a recommendation to favorably recommend, unfavorably recommend, or send no recommendation on to the Town Council for final consideration of the UDO.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for, or against, or about the new ordinance? It's been a long process. I was one of the committee members. Josh was, Kevin was, and we had 4 citizen members also. So appreciate all the help with everyone. But there being no public comment, I'll close the public hearing.
And can I ask a question? So we're getting all these new zoning districts, and how does that get updated in our, like, the county maps?
Most of the zoning districts we just renamed. We didn't create new districts. Well, I take that back. We did create a couple new districts, but they're available to rezone to. They're not being placed on the map yet. So we can communicate with the county's GIS department to make those name changes in the system.
Okay. But technically, once we adopt this ordinance and our map that we have here is what will hold, and then they'll just update their map on it later.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I guess if there's no other discussion, entertain a motion to approve, disapprove, or whatever to the town council. Shelby makes a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Kevin seconds. Is there any more discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
So the town council, I believe it's on their agenda at their meeting tonight at 6 PM, so,
Thanks for all your help, and then
yes.
thanks for Adam and supplying all the goodies for us that night, every night. Appreciate it.
Okay, next we have a public hearing for a Bender subdivision continued from last meeting. I don't believe there's anyone here to represent them.
Lash Road.
Lash Road. So, Bob, I'd like to defer to you. Nobody's here to represent them. They haven't submitted a complete document set. I can't, in my opinion, I can't, the plan commission can't approve it. Should they just disapprove it, or just, it goes away, or what?
So they haven't submitted a complete application.
Right.
So at this point,
But
I don't think, I think you just find that they haven't completed the application process, and that's the end of it. Either they get that done and then you consider it. I wouldn't recommend voting on it when there's not a complete application before you.
Well, they did notify the adjoining property owners of the public hearing that was last month, but they're not here this month, so, including the wife of the subdivider who was opposed to it, so.
But we don't have proof that they notified everybody because we don't have their
That's
agreement.
true, they didn't bring it with them, so.
Well, and they'll have to do it again because they have to notify them of when and at this point, it's not complete. So that's just the end of it.
Yeah,
The survey wasn't completed to our standards for subdividing land. Yeah, but it didn't meet the requirements for subdividing land.
well, it kinda looks that way, but,
Okay.
so do we need to vote on that, or it just goes away?
I think it just goes away.
So I guess that,
You can only close it, can you close it, Bob, or you just gotta say this is just done for now, and if they wanna reapproach, they have to go through the whole process again, right?
Correct. Yeah, I don't think you deny it, you just,
Yeah, we just don't do anything, we just
okay,
pay.
well, that's what I thought, but I wanted to,
no, I think you're right.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
New business, preliminary approval for Granite Ridge to subdivide lots in Cranberry Acres bordering South Hill Road without platting them by meets and bounds only.
In my opinion, that's a variance before it's a plan commission.
I believe so too. If they want to do it by meets and bounds, they have to apply for a variance.
They might as well just plat it, be done with it.
I haven't talked to him, Adam has talked to him, so maybe you can,
Brian and I both talked to them.
okay?
They wanted to take, they wanted to take the two areas on either side of
Access road.
the access road and make 3 lots, one here and one here and one here. This shows 5, but they wanted to do 2. But they wanted
And the
to,
lots
2
would
or
go
3?
clear all the way back.
they wanted to have one here and one here.
Okay, and then one over here,
Yes,
so 3
so
altogether.
3 altogether.
But the lots wouldn't end here, they'd go all the way through the wetland.
Correct, correct. But the buildable part obviously would just be up here, not.
Right.
Are those wetlands labeled common area on any plat?
I have not seen that. And I don't recall it saying common area anywhere.
Okay,
Maybe I've seen that wetland one.
okay. In my opinion, I've never seen anybody wanna, pull a building permit and not go through a platting of the lots for a subdivision.
That's their reason.
They don't, I don't think they wanna pay a surveyor.
They just don't want us to.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's exactly what.
Dollars and cents.
And then there's the thing where if they don't have to plat it, then do they necessarily have to put in the sidewalks going out there too?
I think so. Well, I don't know, I guess the town owns the right of way for the street now, but,
Well, it would be different because it's a minor sub and not a major sub. So under minor subs, if it becomes a minor sub, if it's 3 lots, what's our limit on minor subs?
2 or 3, I think it is, but this was part of the preliminary plat of the entire Cranberry Acre subdivision.
Preliminary but not secondary.
Right.
So technically, I'd
And
have
it-
to read the legal description for that, but let's say it wasn't included in this. It'd be a minor sub, and it'd be followed the minor subdivision process, which wouldn't require sidewalks and all that other stuff.
Say it would or wouldn't.
Wouldn't, because there's difference between a minor subdivision and a major subdivision. Major is the streets, the lighting, the sidewalks,
But
the
it's,
drainage.
it's annexed into the town, does that, to me, that makes a difference.
I think they have some out there, but they still haven't completed their sidewalks. I don't think
Yeah,
they
there's
should be doing anything.
one or two, I think. I know you mentioned it, but I haven't gone out to
They
look.
haven't even got they haven't even got the rest done that they promised in writing, right? Ed, is that correct?
Okay, so if they had something in writing, was there a time frame that was supposed to be completed?
Maybe Brian
Oh,
needs
I
to
don't
do
know.
more than I can.
I'm not sure. The one section of sidewalks between Cranberry Acres and Cranberry Reserve, and there was an argument about who built the house in the corner where it should have been done. I was told that the previous developers, the one who built the house, well, I started doing some research and no, Cranberry's built the house, so they're supposed to be looking into it, because they got a piece of sidewalk put back in. It's, along Stewart Creek, on what would be the north side of it, right there by, Chiswell, also Chiswell and
Okay.
Stewart Creek. It's the south side of their property, sidewalk along the north side of, Stewart Creek. That corner does not have a sidewalk down it.
I-
We did the street project in, whenever we did it in 2021, when we did the street project out there, we added the sidewalk and dead-ended it to cross over Stewart Creek to the opposite side, but it was never extended out to the next lot for, in Cranberry Reserve.
In my opinion, what would control this to be part of that primary or a minor sub would be the legal description. If the legal description that was approved encompassed that land, I mean, then it would, to me, it'd be like another section, like a section, added on, or part of that major subdivision where we'd follow the major subdivision rules. But if it's not in that primary, if it never was approved as that section being in that primary approval or secondary approval, I think it'd be treated as a minor sub.
Do they even wanna build in those 3 lots?
They wanna sell the lots for someone else to build.
Okay.
That's my
There's
interpretation.
enough area without the wetland.
Yeah, I think so.
It might be separated from the original, Josh might be right, I don't know. They never went that
I
far.
wish,
That was just a gravel workplace, your construction drive, I don't know.
but where's Granite Ridge and where's the, like, if this is important to them, they would be here tonight. Do you know about the meeting tonight? Yeah. Okay.
Their email said they weren't gonna pay for it, so more or less to you, Adam, is what they said. But we all, at least the ones that chimed back in, stated it should be their responsibility.
Yeah,
Now,
just look at the
if
sheet
there's a
index.
loophole, minor sheet index, we can't enforce it.
I was trying to see if it showed the, well, we don't have the
Well, I
preliminary
think-
plat. If we had the preliminary plat, it would tell whether it's part of it or
I
not.
think the first thing that they wanted to know primarily, would we even accept a meets and bounds as opposed to a full plat?
No, like I said in an email to somebody, I don't know of anything in town that is not a lot, a platted lot, other than the park and Sacred Heart Home. And they got 40 acres or whatever it is out there, 70 acres. So I don't think we can approve it without it being platted lots.
Agreed.
Debbie's nodding her head too. She's been through this, I'm sure, with other places.
Granite Ridge will try a few things. Yeah,
Yeah,
over the years.
yeah.
So yes,
You will know that, Brian.
And then the next question is, if they do this, they can't hook up to the sanitary sewer without crossing the wetlands.
But there is a rule, if it's in so many feet of our,
Right.
our utilities, they have to hook up. So if they're within that range, they have to hook up to our utilities.
What they were talking about doing is putting in a grinder station for each house,
Yeah,
having them, you can bore under the wetlands,
Yeah.
go through it, just bore back and tie into our sewer system.
and that's not,
And the same with the water. Tap
that's
into
not
the
bad,
water.
that's not a bad
And that
deal.
would be the responsibility of the homeowner
Yeah,
to maintain all that.
as long as it's on private property and they take care of it.
It would be the responsibility of the homeowner or the builder to install it also.
Right.
It wouldn't be on the town.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't arguing that.
Well, it sounded like they were,
Kinda
but
did, yeah.
I thought.
That's the way I read their email.
Well, I think I would like to read the primary, go through the legal descriptions and see what was included, what wasn't included in the primary and secondary plats. And if that was included, I think we have to,
I think this is section 6 or whatever it is of Cranberry Acres.
okay. And then, but if it was never included in the legal, and it got proved that way, I think we have to treat it as a minor.
Well, yeah, in that case, but I'm almost positive it
Okay,
did.
yeah, I was not here.
I have to
for that.
research it, but,
But wouldn't that fall under Cranberry Reserve instead of Cranberry per acres?
well, yeah,
Yeah,
Cause they divide that up.
true.
I'm trying to think, was there another name on that property when we was getting that road stuff done? I don't know. There was a different name on that property, the swamp area, wetlands.
if there's a buildable area and it's feasible, I say we get some homes in there.
Well, they're trying to save money, what they're trying to do, the cost what it is.
3-lot subdivision, what, $3,500? 4,000?
I don't know what you surveyors charge.
I'm all about them having building houses, but I want it to be done the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with the adding houses because we need it, but it needs to be done right.
So when you say sidewalks, I don't know what's going on out there. Is that street being developed out there to the county road?
It's gonna be open back up gravel for a while, then we'll have to decide if we wanna asphalt.
Okay. So you're saying that technically that road's in the town's name now?
So it is.
Yes.
And then you're talking about developing it into a road and you might want sidewalks through there. But they're not subject to pay for those sidewalks. I don't know this question. If it's a minor sub, it's just meet the minimum requirements and that's all you gotta do.
Well, our ordinance calls for sidewalks on both sides of the street in a development. Well, in this case, the town owns the street, so I would say the town might be stuck with it.
Which they didn't want to develop the lots before, but now that they gave us the street.
Yeah.
Because in all reality, if you notice, that lot's not touching there, so they would never touch up to that.
Well, it's different now. I don't have the new drawing, but this is one lot, and then this splits here somewhere and comes back here, and it's all the way over to the street.
Okay. I mean, so technically,
Yeah, and actually, the sketch you're talking about, Bill, shows driveways coming off
Yeah.
that road there, not off of Hill Road.
well, that'd be safe for safety, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
For safety concerns, that's a good idea. But those lots are gonna want that road to be in place, a good road in place when developed.
Well, I don't know what we need to tell them.
And they're probably gonna say, no, I don't wanna do that.
I think it can be done, and it's just a little bit of surveying costs, and DA Brown's probably one of the best around to getting it done, so.
We're involved in this.
I agree.
Well, that's what we'll tell them then.
Yeah.
And that was my first thought to start
Maybe
with.
probably need to look into it and see if it's a minor, like Josh is saying, and maybe we,
Cause, I mean, no matter
maybe
what,
it changes a little bit of the dynamic.
Yeah,
Not
there-
about getting it platted and stuff.
there's rules, now which path do we gotta follow? Do we follow this set of rules, or we go down this line for the rules? That's what's gonna control
I mean,
it.
it could be a minor, but I would think, and I don't know, they've got all that land, they had to get it all at one time together, I
They
mean.
did.
So it's not like that wasn't part of it.
It was all
They got
annexed,
it.
it was all annexed at
But
the
it
same
could be
time.
possibly separated, but I don't know how it could be, but maybe it was deliberately separated at the beginning, years and years ago, because it was a wetland, and they never felt like they'd ever do anything back there.
No,
I don't know what.
they originally had 6 lots platted there.
So then, yeah, you would know, Bill, so it's probably, they're
the
just seeing what
preliminary
we would
plat.
do.
Right, going back to
Take care of some of the money.
2015.
I don't even know if we're even allowed to go against our ordinance. As on the plan commission.
Why do we have an ordinance if we're not gonna go against, if we're
They
gonna
could
go
just be
against it?
trying Brian and Adam a little bit with this email, seeing that maybe we would just, oh, good, we're gonna get some more houses, oh, yeah, we'll put this here, or whatever, who knows what their thought process is.
I would think I don't know, I think you're opening yourself up to trouble if you don't follow your own ordinance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got any thoughts, Debbie?
Well, if they're wanting to utilize the town streets for access, you have the ability to dictate how that's gonna happen.
They will be
Yeah.
using streets.
Over to
Yeah.
one, they wouldn't have to, but,
So they need to meet your road frontage requirements, and part of your,
what's that?
2 lots that don't have a drive on the county road because of this.
and part of your role
So
of
they're
the
gonna
plan
have to-
commission when considering
Which would make
plats
sense.
is guaranteeing that they're buildable moving forward. So if they're not set up the way you want them to be set up, send them back to the drawing board to make it work.
Bob, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not at this point, cause I don't have enough information to have thoughts, but if you're going through the variance process, you get to set conditions on the variance.
Well, I don't know, I don't think we need a variance, I think they just need to plat it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Which, is that something we need to have a motion and a vote on to confirm?
I just.
Well,
have
I'd
Adam
rather
follow-
do that when they're standing here in front of me talking to me.
Yeah, I don't know if
Gotcha.
we have to vote on
Yeah,
it.
I would say just
Okay,
have
well, I'm
Adam
just
follow-
asking.
That's the way we would want it.
They're just asking for information right now,
Sounds like it.
then what you can do is you could set it for a hearing, they're required to attend if they want any information. Because you don't have enough to get back to them on.
Well, they contacted Adam.
Yeah, if everyone wanna do something, you can put the burden of research on them.
Oh, yeah,
In which case they would have to send out notices and.
oh, yeah.
I'm open to the idea of those being developed if it can be built, and we have, and all of our, safe, like they said, the road, the site distance, things like that. If they have city, water, and safe entry and exit off the property, I say develop them. But we have process for that.
Right.
We have to decide if it's gonna be the major or the minor, in my opinion.
It doesn't really make any difference. At this point, in my mind, it's a subdivision.
Okay, you're
Are
correct.
they inside town limits?
Yes.
It's got 100 and some homes out there.
But there's 6, well, they originally had 6 by themselves, kinda out on the other side of the wetlands, along the county road. And now they wanna make 3, but they don't wanna plat them.
That seems odd.
Maybe we're misunderstanding something.
It could be a plat amendment, they're simply, they're adding lots to an existing subdivision, right?
Right.
Part of me, I don't know, because I didn't read the legal description if that
Oh.
particular piece was
Was it?
included in the primary and secondary plat. This could just be something totally separate with ground they owned that butts up to our subdivision.
So I could just go back to them and tell them, meets and bounds is out, you're gonna have to plat it, and you're gonna have to set up a public hearing to subdivide it. And then, if they do that, then we have time to get our information together to figure out if this is a major.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I would do some research on that property and the deeds and how this was created. If this is its own parcel on its own,
You can require them to give you that information.
Oh, yeah.
You shouldn't trust it, but you can require them to give it to you.
We've got it somewhere, I've read it, but it's been a long time.
You could send them through your new process.
Well, and
That's
that's the
true.
question I have, we haven't approved the new process totally yet, so do they go through the new one, or since they talked to Adam a couple of weeks ago, we go with the old process?
You can persuade them to go through the new process regardless.
Is talking to Adam the first step of your process, or is doing an
Yeah.
application the first step?
Meeting with Adam or someone from the town is is the first step, it always was anyway.
I think if they don't have an application, they haven't started.
That's my feeling.
Well, that's what I wanna say too, but I'm looking at you for help.
Do we need to vote on anything, or we?
I don't think you need to vote.
Nope.
There's nothing to
Just
vote
asking
on.
questions right now.
All's kind of in their court. We give them what we feel they need to do, and it's up to them to move forward with
Yep.
that. Or get a hearing or go from there.
And if they do nothing, that's fine too.
And they might not. It took them forever to do the reserve time, years and years and years. So
But-
maybe these three are just something that they're just thinking about now and out of the box a little bit.
Yeah, and also the two lots that butt up against that street that we may turn into a street, if to put walks out there, that's expensive. That adds a lot of cost to that lot too.
Absolutely.
So whoever buys that lot is gonna have to incur, if it's on them to build sidewalks, their own sidewalk, that's gonna be a lot of money.
Sure is.
Unless we stop it at the edge of their property, cause no one really needs to walk out to the county road.
Understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
But if we come in like, 5 or 1 foot in onto their property, I don't know. Part of me says, there's really no good reason for somebody to walk out to that county road.
Well, if you're looking at the future,
Yeah,
as a developer, as a plan director, to me, the logical place to go is that 110 acres across the road from there. So,
Which would put it in the middle if they develop that.
right. But it may or may not happen. You don't know. Okay, well, I think we tell them that they need to start the subdivision process if they wanna continue with it. Okay, the last item on our agenda is discussion of 407 Vice Boulevard subdivision in light of utility line easement.
Okay, so she came in the other day and she's just asking a preliminary question. I figured I'd throw it on the agenda real quick. She wants to build a home right in the dotted line area, and then the power lines go over that. I would say no,
No way.
okay?
Nice boulevard, they wanna squeeze another power.
Well, yeah, they'd have to split the lot to do it, but that overhead power line, high voltage power lines there, you can't.
Can't build underneath them.
by our new ordinance, they could do an ADU,
What's an ADU?
accessory dwelling unit, on their
Well,
property.
Kinda sounds like they wanna sell the lot to somebody, but I haven't talked to them yet.
Oh, they wanna subdivide?
Yeah, that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Subdivide and let somebody else build.
I don't think you can build within an easement like that.
No, you
I
can't.
think a lot is even there.
Oh, it's a big lot.
It's pretty big, but I think the lot was big because
Of
of the
the
power
easement.
lines, the power line easement.
Yeah, you can't build anything within an easement.
That easement runs east
I
and
see.
west right there.
Thank you.
We can never allow them to build under an easement on power line.
The dotted line is where
Yeah.
it's gonna be the house. I thought the answer was no, but I told her that I would check with you guys real quick on it.
Yeah, I know where you're at now that you made comments.
All right, is there any other business anyone wants to talk about? If not, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adam seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Motion adjourns at 6:36. 5:36, yeah.
Yeah, you're still going off the 6 on the meeting.
Yeah.